What you're going to now learn is a very critical aspect of biomimicry. You are going to learn only three words. Can you believe it? I'm going to spend about 10-15 minutes for those three words. But these three words are important to you because without understanding these three words, there's no point doing biomimicry. Because biomimicry, whatever you do in the future from now on, all these three words will keep coming back. So why not learn them well? And you're going to be surprised, maybe even bored, saying you already know these three keywords. So the learning is going to be fun and easy. Anything that's easy is going to be fun. Okay, but just give me your attention, please. 10 or 15 minutes. That's what you're going to learn. You're going to learn the word called function. Function, very simply described, is what something does. What is the function of spectacles? What is the function of a chair? What is the function of a book? What is the function of a dustbin? What is the function of a laptop? What something does. Or a purpose or outcome. So what should be the outcome? What is the outcome of the chair, the laptop, dustbin, etc.? So in this case, what is the function of spectacles? To correct the wearer's vision. Very simple. So this is very important for design, right? When you design stuff, you don't say I want to make a chair. You want to say I want to make something that helps people balance, helps people be seated, helps people to be comfortable, right? So then the idea of a chair may come to you. The first thing you ask before you start to design is, what do I want my design to do? The verb, the action to do has to happen. Or what is the purpose of my design? What should be the outcome of my design? Here, the outcome of the spectacles is to correct the wearer's vision. If you make spectacles that simply looks nice but doesn't correct the wearer's vision, some people may accept it. But that's not the real purpose of a pair of spectacles. So to correct the wearer's vision, to protect the eyes, many times you need to have spectacles that protect your eyes, right? For instance, when you're playing a game of squash, when you are doing some welding, when you're out in the sun, you want to protect your eyes because it can hurt your eyes. Many of us will want to wear spectacles because we want to look good, which is why we spend so much time in a spectacles shop, right? So much time because we want to look good. We keep looking at the mirror. We actually ask other people, "Am I looking good?" And we want to look good. So I want to enhance my appearance. And of course, this is something that all of us have experienced. The first time I went to this 3D movie, I felt very silly because they gave me these glasses, huge, ugly glasses, and I had to put it on. And I looked around, everybody was putting it on. And therefore, suddenly what I did was I took it off, but I couldn't see anything on the screen. So I put it on quickly back again, right? So therefore, you want to view something specific, you use spectacles. So the function is what something does. I'm sure it's very clear to you now. The next word is very important. The next word is strategy. I can't just have a function, right? I need to also have a strategy to accomplish that function. So it can either be a mechanism or a process. What is it in the case of the spectacles? In the case of spectacles, is lenses of appropriate power. So that if you go to a lens factory, you will find people making different types of lenses depending on the power that the wearer needs. So strategy is, how is that function accomplished? Very easy. Now look at the next one. Look, we have a new friend over here. So we know what is function, we know what is strategy. But now what are we learning? We are learning that there is a beautiful polar bear and she has fur, and the function of the polar bear's fur is to keep the bear warm. Beautiful, right? Imagine if we were planning a trip to a very cold place, how much of shopping, how much of care we would take in selecting the right winter clothing. And therefore for the polar bear, that fur is very, very critical. The function of the polar bear is to keep the bear warm all the time. it goes back to the survival of the polar bear. And what is the start? This is where biomimicry becomes terribly, terribly interesting. Because even before we created winter clothing, nature has already created clothing for the bear. And nature has not only created clothing, nature has also built in strategy that stands the test of time. Right? Completely. Look at the power there. And therefore, the learning of how this happens becomes critical to us. So what is the strategy for the polar bear's fur? It has a layer of guard hairs. You can read it. You can go into details. I'm not going to explain that now. But right now, you must understand that every function must have a strategy. The strategy here is that there is a layer of guard hairs that absorb infrared radiation to prevent heat loss. So the strategy, therefore, satisfies the function. You have learned function, you have learned strategy, you will keep on coming back to this again and again and again. Look at function and strategy in nature. Now it's very simple. So therefore there is function. What is function in nature? What an organism or living system must do in order to survive. What it must do in order to survive. Strategies, how does the organism or living system attain or performs the function? How does it do it? So it could be mechanism, process, adaptation, whatever. And here we have a picture of the lotus leaf. And we are going to look at the next slide. But before that, let me get my laser pointer. So therefore here, right? So now look at the next slide. So simple it's becoming, right? We are learning function, we are learning strategy. We are looking at the lotus leaf. You see small droplets of water, but it's not wet. Therefore, the function of the lotus leaf is to stay clean. And how does it achieve that function? The strategy is a methodology to achieve the function. The lotus leaf contains microscopic bumps that reduce the contact area between the water and the leaf. I must have said it millions of times in my life already. This makes the leaf hydrophobic, that is water repellent. So the water rolls off the leaf and carries dirt particles so double purpose, right? The water rolls off and the dirt particles carry it away. And look at the beauty of having a function and using a strategy to achieve that function. You know, I'm smiling so much because I'm so excited when I learn that I can no more look at a lotus leaf as an ordinary lotus leaf. My whole perspective now is I'm looking at an engineer, and a very brilliant engineer, and an engineer who doesn't mind sharing information with the whole world. All I've got to do is to pick up the information free of cost, which is why the smile and the excitement. Now we're learning a new word. What, Shiva? 2 words are not enough. No, 2 words are not enough. Third word is important to complete the learning. So therefore, function is what an organism or living system must do in order to survive. Brilliant. Strategy, how the organism or living system attains or performs that function. Mechanism or process, we know how it does it, hydrophobic and all that. But it does it in a particular context, in a particular environment. And it's important when you learn to learn from biomimicry, it's important to understand all these 3 things so that you can mimic the strategies. Because unless you look at the context, if the strategy works in a particular context, it may not work in some other context. So you'll have to ask what is it that you want to do, and you'll have to be very specific about what is the context you want to do it in, so that you can look at the strategy from nature. The context for the lotus leaf here is environment, other factors affecting the survival of the organism living system. In this case, it needs to be surrounded by a water body, right? And therefore, look at the next slide. It's now becoming easy. That's it. All the 3 things are explained here. Just with the lotus leaf, you know, it's important to learn anything that you want with one example, one powerful example. In this case, the example that you'll remember for the rest of your life is this slide, Whenever you have a doubt about function, strategy, and context, come back to this slide and you will start to understand. So therefore, function of the lotus leaf is to stay clean. The strategy of the lotus leaf contains microscopic bumps, etc., etc., etc. The leaf is hydrophobic, strategy. And the context here is water bodies, pools, muddy lakes, marshes. That's the context. So this strategy is achieved only there. So therefore, when you are doing your innovation, you have to be able to understand, ask yourself, what is the context of the lotus leaf that I'm imitating, so that you can replicate or you can imitate that context, imitate that strategy in that particular context. So therefore, the polar bear fur may not work or will not work in conditions that are not similar to what the polar bear faces, right? So final slide, function, strategy, context, and nature. Function is cactus pines. Function of cactus pines is reduce water loss, because desert and all that, it needs to conserve water. So reduce water loss. The strategy is cactus pines are actually modified leaves. And I'm just reading the strategy so that it gets into your head. So after you remember the lotus leaf, you also remember one more example, the cactus leaves. The cactus pines are actually modified leaves. Pines have smaller surface area than normal leaves and thus limit the water. So this is the strategy of the cactus pines. And the context is important. The context is hot deserts, arid climate, and unpredictable rainfall. So what you have learned are three important words: function, strategy, context. Remember the examples, right? Spectacles, example. Polar bear, one more example. Lotus leaf, one example. And cactus pines, one example, right? Okay. So what you need to do is to whenever you need to remember function, strategy, and context, just come back to these slides and remember these three words will keep coming back and back and back in everything that we do about biomimicry.
So we are going to look at function and strategy with an example from the natural world. And the example we are going to take is that of the elephant's trunk. You see the link to a video here. The video explains beautifully what the functions of the elephant trunk are. Now, I read once that the elephant trunk is so versatile that it is strong enough to uproot a tree and at the same time precise enough to pluck a delicate flower. So think about that, the wide range of uses that an elephant's trunk has. And this video takes you through the functions of an elephant trunk. So the link to this video is also posted below this recording. So you can stop this recording, look at the video, and come back. So what is the function of the elephant's trunk? Now, function is the purpose of something. Now, in the natural world, it is what an organism does in order to survive. So the function of the elephant trunk is, one function is to grasp things. Of course, as the video has told you, there are other functions as well, like using it to breathe, to feed, to sense things, to communicate, etc. But for this example, we are going to take the function of grasping things. What is the strategy that it employs in order to accomplish that function? So that's what a strategy is, right? What it does to accomplish that function. And the strategy is explained here in brief. For grasping, what is the strategy? The trunk is made up of only muscle without any bones or joints. The trunk is made up only of muscle and of course water. It is what is called a muscular hydrostat, a bit like the human tongue. And the volume of water in this trunk remains constant. So when there is a change in shape in one direction, it compensates for that by changing its shape in another direction as well. And that's what the strategy is of the elephant trunk in order to be able to grasp things. Now, this is is a very brief explanation of the strategy of an elephant's trunk, or rather the strategy that the elephant's trunk uses in order to accomplish a function. We urge you to look at more examples so you will be oriented towards understanding function and strategy better, because function and strategy is a very critical part of understanding biomimicry and of practicing biomimicry. And you'll soon see why that is so important. So to get you started on doing this, you can do an exercise on function and strategy. Of course, you can also record this in your biomimicry diary. Every week we urge you to record something or the other in your diary as you learn biomimicry and practice biomimicry. This week, look at function and strategy, and look at function and strategy of these two organisms, snail and kingfisher. Look at the function of the kingfisher's beak and the snail's shell. Remember, they could have more than one function, and there could be multiple strategies that they use in order to accomplish those functions. Go ahead, look them up, find out how function and strategy work in each of these cases. This will be really useful for you as you start practicing biomimicry.